author's grandfather was once persuaded to accompany the hunting party of several very important persons from Delhi. Though grandfather himself was not a shikari, he knew the terrain of the hills very well, so he joined the party. One day while he was strolling down the forest path, at some distance from the rest of the party, he found a little tiger cub. Grandfather picked him up and took him home when the camp was over. Author's grandmother named the tiger cub Timothy. At first, the tiger cub was brought up entirely on milk given to him in a feeding bottle by Mahmood, the cook in the author's household. But the milk proved too rich to him, and he was then given raw mutton and cod liver oil. Later he was given pigeons and rabbits. Timothy was provided with 2 companions, Toto the monkey and a small mongrel puppy. Toto was very naughty. He pulled the tail of Timothy, and when the latter got enraged, he climbed the curtains. At first, Timothy was quite afraid of the puppy. Timothy moved back quickly if Toto would come near him. Finally, Timothy allowed Toto to crawl on his back and rest there. One of Timothy's favorite amusements was to pursue anyone who would play with him. So when the author came to live with grandfather, he became one of the tiger's favorites. He would love to play with him. By this time, Timothy was of the size of a full-grown retriever. When the author took him out for walks, people on the road would give them a wide space. When Timothy was about 6 months old, a change came over him. He grew less friendly. When out for a walk with the author, he would try to steal away to stalk a cat or someone's pet dog. And finally, when Timothy began to stalk Mahmood about the house with what looked like villainous intent, grandfather decided to transfer him to a zoo. The nearest zoo was at Lucknow. Grandfather took him to the zoo and handed him over to the zoo authority. About 6 months later, my grandfather paid a visit to the zoo to see how Timothy was getting on. He straightaway went to the cage where Timothy had been kept. The tiger was there, crouched in a corner, full-grown and with a magnificent striped coat. Grandfather called, "Hello, Timothy!" The tiger approached the bars and allowed grandfather to put both hands around his head. Grandfather stroked the tiger's forehead and tickled his ear, and whenever he growled, smacked him across the mouth. A number of people had gathered to watch this. Then a keeper came and asked grandfather what he was doing. Grandfather said that he was talking to Timothy. The surprised keeper said that he was never able to touch him because he was always very bad-tempered. Grandfather told him to shift the tiger to another cage because the tiger was afraid of the leopard kept in the same cage. Then he went himself to speak to the zoo superintendent. Since the superintendent had left for home earlier, grandfather returned to the cage to say Timothy goodbye. He had been stroking and slapping Timothy for about 5 minutes when another keeper came. He was present when grandfather gave the Timothy to the zoo authority. Grandfather asked him to shift the tiger to another cage. The keeper said that it was not his tiger. His tiger died 2 months ago, and this tiger was caught only last month, and it was very dangerous. The tiger still was licking grandfather's hand. Grandfather pulled his hand and walked out of the zoo.